All right, today is Monday, March 18th, 2024. It is 6:01 and we have a quorum present, so we'll call this meeting to order. We're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Paul Arriaga is going to lead us in that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. And Denise is going to read our board mission statement.
Through high expectations and equitable opportunity, TMISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experiences.
And we have no public comment, so we're going to move on to our favorite part of the night, and that's recognizing the students. So the first one's going to be UIL Academics, and then TMFFA Nueces County Junior Livestock Show winners, and then the UIL One Act Play.
All right, let's go. So before we start recognizing these outstanding scholars, I want to ask you to do whatever you need to do to get a memory, get a picture. We'll slow everything down. This doesn't happen every day, and it's by far our favorite part of a board meeting. We know that it takes a solid partnership to have success like we see here, and we appreciate that partnership. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Kelly Griffin, and I am one of the ACT teachers at Tolosa Midway, and I also have one of my teaching partners, Natalie Grove, here with me tonight. We would like to recognize some of our FFA members that have worked very hard this year. I know most of you are probably aware of the Nueces County Junior Livestock Show. We kind of get that little bit of extra time off so that our kiddos can participate in that. For them, it's not a break. It's a week of work, but it's a week of work that is very rewarding. They learn life skills that they would not learn otherwise. They learn how to manage money. They learn how to care for animals. They learn what goes into feeding a family and making food go from farm to plate. And so that's something that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives. We had almost 100 kids that participated through Tolosa Midway FFA this year in grades 3 through 12. If you've never been involved in it, you've got kids in those grade levels, look us up next year. We have meetings every month. We'd love to have your kid involved as well. So tonight I'm going to go ahead and recognize some of our kids that did participate in the show. We're going to begin with Gabriel De La O. He was 5th place market swine. Next, we have Maya Flores, Blue Ribbon Market Rabbits. Next, we have Jason Garcia, Blue Ribbon Broilers.
Congratulations.
Next is Alexa Garrett, 5th place Market Swine, 1st place Art Mixed Media, Intermediate Grand Champion Art, 2nd place Crafts, 2nd place Ag Mechanics, Grand Champion Junior Showmanship for Ag Mechanics. Kylie Gordon-Perel, Reserve Breed Champion, Fine Wool Lamb.
Congratulations.
Annabelle Griffin, Breed Champion, Chester Swine, 3rd place Yeast Bred, Reserve Champion, Senior Fancy Buck Breeding Rabbit, Reserve Champion, Intermediate Doe Breeding Rabbit, 3rd place Ag Mechanics. Caitlin Krebs, second place Market Swine, grand champion Division II Ag Mechanics, grand champion senior record book Ag Mechanics. Madison Pettis, ninth place Broilers, grand champion junior showmanship Broilers, third place Crafts Fiber Art. Hold that one, Grandma. Got out of order. Sophia Martinez, fifth place Market Goat. Blas Salinas, sixth place Market Swine. Isaiah Salinas, second place Market Swine. And Wade Yates, first place Crafts.
I thought I had it in my pocket.
Well done, Wade.
On behalf of Tolosa Midway FFA, I would like to thank the community and the board for their support of our FFA kids. We spend a lot of time in the barn. We have an amazing facility. It's world class, best in the county. So we're very excited about the facilities that the school has provided to us. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Everybody find a window. Make a window.
Parents, get where you need to get a picture.
I'm sorry, I missed it in front of you. Okay, can we scoot in just a little bit? A little bit. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Good job.
Thank
Well done. Proud of you. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Yep. Did you get informed we're meeting tomorrow for lunch?
No, I didn't.
We're meeting tomorrow for lunch.
It's her fault, she was out today.
I don't think he got out, but
Right here. You stop right there.
this must be one act.
Do you want me to?
Tell, right?
Hi. You'll announce as they come in.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? You want me to stand here, over there?
Anywhere you want.
Right here, that way they could just shake you guys' hands as they
Okay.
go along. Hi, hello, I am Mrs. S.V. Bell. I am the speech coach at Tolosa Midway. I have the UIL academic finalists here. We had 27 entries entered into academics, and we had 27 finalists. So that was But first, I'm starting with one act. I forgot who was in front of me. This is our one act play class, and then after this, I'll have speech and debate. Our one act play class. This is their third. Out of the 9 years we've competed, 8 have been district champions, and this is our third straight year winning district champions for one act play. First of all, I'm going to recognize Fernando Pina, and then you go down and shake hands.
Congratulations.
Jesus Perez. Aaron Rios. Sofia Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez. Faith Springs. Colby Brignoni. Adam McCarthy. Kelly Flores. Gia Ortega. Riley Moya. Aubrey Quintero, who is also our all-star tech crew. Daisy Martinez, who is honorable mention. Sean Andrews, who is honorable mention. What's your name? Ariela Esquivel, who's my daughter, who is all-star class. Liam Benavides, who is all-star cast. And Emiliana Gutierrez, who is best performer.
Let's get a picture.
All right, you guys want to get a picture? You want to get in here for a picture? So boys, if y'all can kneel in the front, boys, right here. And then girls, yeah. That way the board members are behind you too, and then gather in for windows. I don't know how to do it. That works. Y'all want to get in?
No, get over here.
Can I squeeze back here with you guys? Okay.
Can you get everybody?
Two steps back, just a little, sorry.
Come on back.
Come back. Is there holding on?
We don't bite, we promise.
Go back just an inch, please. Don't move until I take a photo though, okay? But let your
Everybody
parents
look here. Smile, ready, 1, 2, 3. Look here. Everybody look here. Emmy, were you looking? Were you looking?
Don't move.
Come right here.
Excuse me. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, don't move. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you guys.
Back to the library.
Thank you.
Those of you also speaking to make
I'll take care of it.
If you're a one-act parent with a one-act child, they can leave right now. Going right back to the library.
Lynn, I really enjoyed it. What'd y'all think?
I thought they were good. We're making some changes. We didn't add everything yet because it was just district, so we're adding a lot more this coming tournament contest. It's my second favorite show ever, so I'm glad it went. Over the River's my first, and this is my second. Hi guys. It's funny how they act nervous, but they speak in front of people all the time. All right, so this is the 27 out of 27 finalists. So if you want to give them a round of applause. So first up, we have Juliana Arias. Elena McCall. Derek Lucas. Joaquin Tierney. Ryder Rolls. Christiana Stespel. Ray Ramos. Vivan Vakta. Christine Vaughn. Carson Boone. Caitlin Benavides. Brielle de los Santos. Kamora Whitmill. We have returners here from Linac Bay Springs. Riley Moya. And Daisy Martinez. You want to pick up them?
Oh,
Absolutely.
Boys in the front. If y'all could, right here, I think is where we want them. Yeah, come down more, come on. A little more, right there's good. And then girls, find your window. Come this way, Daisy. Come one more down. There you go. Over here on this side. Come on. There you go. Come more. Come down a little more. Do we want, keep going a little more, Daisy. There you go. We got it, we got it. You just tiptoe sometimes, you just tiptoe.
Everyone look. 1, 2, 3, smile.
Riley, are you smiling?
Probably not.
Don't move, I still gotta take a photo. One, 2, and 3. Got it. Thank you, guys.
He looks like $1 million.
Right there, yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So handsome.
Great job, kid.
Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate you. That's fine.
Give us a minute to bring the tables in.
Okay. You need help?
I have some volunteers out there.
Take a 5-minute recess and do it. Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess at 6:18. It is 6:22 on Monday, March 18th, 2024. We are returning from recess. We're going to move on to agenda item number 1, discuss and consider approval of the architectural contract for VLK Architects.
Madam President, members of the board, this is the third contract for architects that will be for discussion and perhaps approval. This is the one with our largest architect, VLK. They will be responsible for the Career and Tech Center as well as the renovation of the natatorium.
Any questions?
Do we get a copy of the contract?
It should have been, wasn't in the board book.
No, contract wasn't.
We'll have to pull that item then. I thought that contract went out. Okay, we'll pull it.
I didn't see it.
We will
No,
pull
it wasn't in the board book.
We will pull it.
Okay.
No, they're not.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 2, update from OnSedexo.
Madam President, members of the board, we have Mr. Hernandez that's going to lead this discussion. Patrick?
Madam President, board members, good evening. We're giving an update on Sodexo that was requested. Ms. Anna Martin from Sodexo will be giving you a report on the survey that was done. I'll give a report on the survey that we plan to do in May. Go over the change from So Happy app to the NutraSlice app and the future upcoming chef competition at the intermediate. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Martin.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to meet with y'all. I do work with Patrick a lot and give him, we talk sometimes once a day, but I do always update with him. But I am happy to be able to report to y'all. We did offer a survey. I sent out an email to the principals back in the fall. With the high school, we did it through putting posters with the what do you call it? QR code. And also we put them on the tables at lunch. At the middle school, we worked it where we were going to do it through some of their computer classes or their homeroom classes. Intermediate, We did not get that shared out with them. We had not planned on doing it at the pre-K level at that time. We didn't even get 200 responses. I know, even like Mr. Alvarado was helping, after that luncheon, we would pass out the papers. We didn't get a good response. We learned from that. So I did talk with Patrick and Chrissy, and they are gonna help me in May get that out, like through the website and through the portals that I don't have access to. So we're looking forward to that. But we did, out of those 200 or so responses, we were able to get some, or I think it was 170. We were able to get some good feedback that we've already taken action on. As far as the high school kids, they actually said, hey, we'd like a Belgian or a waffle station. And also the middle school said that. So we do have, we pulled together a smallware order that we're going to submit to 4 different vendors to get some bids. We also have some smallware equipment things that were kitchen type stuff that we're trying to get that sent out tomorrow. Patrick did share, I told him a couple of vendors and he shared a couple of vendors to get that out to them. So we'll get that out and we'll get those waffles in, and we plan to have that rolling as soon as that equipment comes in this spring. Another thing that we heard, the high school likes those home cooked meals. So we do have on our first line where we try to offer something build on your own. We've done grilled chicken. We've actually tried the bus station, some people call it pho, but we've tried a lot of made to order stuff. Chef has really been implementing some great stuff. Another thing that we saw, the high school kiddos wanted, and middle school, wanted more seasoning. Well, TVA doesn't allow us to offer salt, right? But we've already, the past couple of weeks before spring break, we put seasonings out that are salt-free, and then we don't monitor as far as, saying, slow down, kiddos. They're salt-free. We have a Mexican seasoning, garlic herb one, I think a Cajun one, but they're salt-free. But the kiddos, we have them, and they're like, ooh, I'm being it, because they can grab and put stuff on their fries. So they really like that. Room for opportunity at the high school. They did say they would like more salad variety, as far as every day we have salads, chicken Caesar or the turkey ham and cheese, but they actually want some type of pasta or chicken salads. So during Lent, we did put out some tuna salads, and Chef is working with the employees out there to, cut the vegetables that we set them in and make it look more presentation-wise for the kiddos. So that's kind of catching on pretty good. The students love the high school cafeteria staff. They even when I'm on a register, we call out their name. We're also calling out their name to make sure they're using the right account, but they like hearing their name, and yes, ma'am, or good luck at the football game. So that's really good at the high school. So as far as opportunity was the spices and the salads, which we have already taken action on. The middle school, the things that they asked for, they want more grab and go. So at the high school, we have the room to put mini salads and wraps and things out. High school, we do salads, or we'll do the yogurt cups, and they really like that. But they wanted a little bit more grab and go type variety. So that's something we need to work on. Another thing that they asked for was more fresh fruit variety. So with spring coming up, I'm sure the kiddos get tired of apples, bananas, and oranges. So with the spring coming up, we are gonna, get grapefruit and plum and whatever else we can out there. Get some more grapes. They always want, and when we have watermelon and stuff like that, they go nuts. So we're gonna try to get more of that. The students at the middle school said they love the scratch chicken recipes that we offer on the global line. Sometimes we'll do a barbecue chicken or a jalapeno pepper chickens, that type of stuff. So they really like that. Room for opportunity at the middle school was the condiments. So we already put out ketchup, mayonnaise, mustard, ranch. So what other condiments? Seasoning. So we put out the seasoning station at all the lines there too. So one thing to notice or mention that Patrick and I he said, make sure to talk about that. Although our enrollment had been going down, we are increasing in what we call average daily participation. So we take the meals and divide it by the actual enrollment, and we actually have been going up from Aramark, 4% at breakfast and 2% at lunch. But this year, we're even beating ourselves, Sodexo, on our numbers by a couple of percent. So we are increasing the meal counts despite the lower enrollment as far as average daily participation. Bless you. The next steps that we want to talk about is we've got a corn tortilla machine where we're trying to get that. Patrick's been great helping with the work with the contractors, trying to get those equipment working and getting it all checked off with fire and all that. We are proud that we have the the pizza impinger. It's actually where you roll the pizza in. The kids can kind of see it through the window where the pizza goes in on the conveyor and comes out. We're not just putting them in the oven. They are scratch-made pizzas at middle school, high school, and now we're just going to start them at intermediate. And that's a lot when you're doing about 40 pizzas fresh scratch, like on the elementary level. So, but that's what we're moving to is fresh scratch there. I think the special food days, we've been trying to do some fun days for the kids, you know, promotional type things. I think the other thing Patrick was gonna, if you want, he mentioned we have the future chef. And thank you very much. I know that 2 of the board members have volunteered to be a judge. And that's really fun where the kiddos actually come in and it's a 4th and 5th grade. And we had 12 entries and got it down to 7. So they're gonna compete. They put the little shirt and the hat on and we assign them with a kitchen manager. And
There's still an opportunity for one more trustee
Yes.
to sign up. It's March 26th at 3:30. Who are the 2 that have signed up?
I have Janie, she was my third one.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't aware of that.
I mean, if 4 of you wanted to do it, we
No, we can't do that.
Do that.
Got me 3, okay, I'm learning here. But that's one thing.
Yes.
So 3 of y'all are gonna do it. What I'll do this week, I'll send you out something that kind of tells, but it just tells you kind of the rubrics on how to judge that day, but we'll be right there. The kiddos will actually come up, and that's one of their points is where they actually say, and we help them. We'll have a cafeteria manager with them, but they'll, you know, to help them if they get lost, but basically they'll say their name and what they created, and you can even ask them a question. It's a lot of fun. We provide the prizes for the kids, and if we're lucky and one can advance to our top winner will advance to a regional level if they're selected. We had at our Keller ISD, which is a Sodexo count, we actually had somebody go upwards to the national level, and Sodexo paid for that student and their family member to go and represent Texas, and it was really a nice thing. So it's a real fun thing. The other thing is NutriSlice. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes.
My last thing is NutriSlice. I'm happy to say that we have had So Happy app, which is the app that the teachers and kiddos and nurses use. It gives carb counts and what's the menu for the day on any school, so you can download it on your phone. Well, So Happy app has run its course. I just got it started when I got here in July, but it's already run its course for 9 years, and now we're going with a better technology program. It's called NutriSlice, and what we love about this one is it's on the phone, but it gives carbs and nutrition. It can give the parent a week at a glance, or the whole month. We'll still post them on this website though. But what's really cool about it is it translates in 50 languages. So the other So Happy app didn't have that technology. So it's really cool. When I was showing Patrick about it, you could click on it and it'll just translate it to Spanish for you or whatever, up to 50 languages. So it's just much better technology. That's about all I have. We have a lot of caterings coming up, but as far as that, I think I'm done, right?
Just a couple of things to clarify. So we're going back to the survey. The survey was a national survey done by Sodexo. And lessons learned is we had a really low turnout. So we're going to redo the survey. It's going to be a TM-only survey. We'll get the questions and all that organized, and you'll get to preview it before the survey goes out. At the April meeting, or one of the board connections, I'll send out the survey so you can preview it. We want to get more information, see what the kids want. It's really easy to get information from the kids. I know Mr. Van Matry's gone out. Strawberry's high on our list, strawberry milk. We're trying our best to get that. In reading to the kids at the primary, I took the opportunity to ask them, if you were making the menu, what would be your number one item in the menu at the primary? They all want pizza. 5 days a week, they'd be happy. We can't do that, of course, but we know what the kids want, and we're trying to meet their demands. So, and we're gonna try, I think our goal should be at least 50%, if not more, response on this survey. So we'll work with the principals to get as much feedback as we can on these surveys. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
I didn't know anything about the So Happy app, so I sit in here and didn't know about it, so I'm worried about our other parents on all the campuses not knowing about that app. So if we're moving to a new app with menus and stuff like that, we definitely, however y'all want to go about getting that information out, everybody needs to know how to find that, so that we do know what's available for our kids to eat.
I agree. So it's on the website, but we now have Parent Square. Parent Square seems to be working great. We will blast it out via that app to get it out there.
Yeah, that would be great.
And to piggyback on that, the NutriSlice, I have a flyer in English and Spanish that Patrick told me right before spring break I could share it with the webmaster, where it'll just, on the home website page, it'll show in English and Spanish NutriSlice coming. And we'll have that out for a week or two, and then we'll put the actual link out, and then also use the parent, what do you call it? Parent portal, to get that information out. But it's a really good app, and I know the nurses use it a lot already because it gives them that carb count or whatever else they need for that.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the salt, is there anything else that we can use instead of, like on a, I know we can't use salt, but is there anything else that, I mean?
Sauces? Like maybe
No,
sauces?
just like a fake salt, what am I trying to ask?
That's kind of what we're putting out
Substitute?
now. It's kind of like a Miss Dash, but it doesn't say. But one's a garlic herb, one is a 17-season
But
salt-free,
nothing, just salt.
but not just salt. It's kind of like the strawberry
And my-
milk thing.
Yeah, my second thing was that, I mean, you know, do we have any surveys from the kids from our district on this company yet?
That's what we're gonna do in May.
So that was my question until you
We'll
brought that
compile all
up.
information. We'll use that data for when I come to you in September to renew the contract. We'll use that information to make that
That would be
determination.
more helpful than
Yes,
the actual company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
that was made clear at the last renewal that you wanted.
We've never had a vendor come in and say, hey, we're doing a terrible job. So, yeah, the kids have to speak, you know.
And not everyone's gonna be happy. I mean,
No, I get that.
but as long as we're serving the majority and we're meeting the nutritional guidelines and we're compliant with that, that's what's important.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you for all the information.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, that was just an update for report only, no board action needed. Moving on to agenda item number 3, report on SHARS.
Madam President, members of the board, SHARS has been in the news lately, unfortunately, due to the loss of funding that we're able to generate from offering services to our special needs students. So we felt it was a good idea to educate the board prior to budget time regarding these revenue shortfalls and why they're happening. So we have our SPED department with us.
So, again, like Mr. Van Matry mentioned, that's a big topic right now, the CHARS, which is the School Health and Related Service Cost Report. We're gonna talk a little bit about that tonight to kind of tell you, kind of give you an idea of what's going on and allow you to ask any questions you may have. So, one of the first things, kind of a little bit of a background of what has actually happened is, Texas had improperly received Medicaid reimbursement for the CHARS. So when they received that, and then back in 2017, they were giving notice by the Health and Human Services Commission back in October 2017. So this was when they contacted the company and let them know that they had some concerns. So then the findings made a recommendation to disallow certain random moment in time studies. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But so they were telling them there are certain charges that we think that shouldn't be billed, you shouldn't be billing for. That's what they told them back in 2017. So then HHSC staff, they started working with them
Get your copies.
and they were trying to request them to reconsider that, to reconsider allowing them to be able to bill for those services. And then and then that was it. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well too, that we didn't know any of this was going on. In October 2023, the Department of Appeals Board handed down a final decision and said, and that's when they said they denied it. They denied the appeal, like, no, you're gonna have to pay this money back and that's it. So they didn't allow these different changes that they were wanting to make. So then now they've exhausted any opportunities to be able to appeal again, and that's where we stand now. And we'll go to the next one.
And just to kind of give you a little bit of background and kind of put some structure to this, HHSC, right, the Health and Human Service Commission, is a state agency.
Yes.
So they are a state agency, and so the folks from DAB, those are the federal folks.
People.
So that's where the tug of war happened, right? So there's been kind of a back and forth because of the way that they were facilitating the list for the Medicaid reimbursable services. And so, you know, they kind of went back and forth.
Which is primary personal care.
That's correct, sir. Yes, sir. There's a very specific list, and not just a list of services, but there's also a very specific list. It's referred to specifically as a participant list, and that outlines all the individuals that can provide that type of service that then we can turn around and claim for reimbursement.
And you're going to get copies of this.
And some of the findings that they had when they did their investigation or their report was that of some of the examples of unsupported claims was that there was ineligible specialized transportation. So they were saying there's certain things that you can't bill for transportation. Service on holidays or weekends. Again, those should be taken out. Overbilling, inaccurate billing for unallowable services. So these are some things that they found that when they did their report that that HHSC was billing for or allowing the districts to bill for that were not allowable expenses. And then some additional things is a random moment time study. So this is, the report also addressed that they found that not all of the direct medical service cost claims that were being made were reasonable or they were adequately supported and otherwise allowable. So certain things that they were billing for, they were saying that you can't bill for with the random moment the time study. The state agency conducted the RMTS for 3 of the 4 federal fiscal quarters. Well, the problem is that the time that they did the audit, it was from July through September, but HHSC did not have the school districts. We don't bill at those times because they don't allow us to bill because they're saying there's no school. However, this was one of the things they had already brought up, that they had wanted us to, it's supposed to be 4 quarters. But none of us knew that. So we just kept doing what we had been doing because that's exactly what, because we didn't know. Like, we didn't know this stuff was going on until recently.
So are we compliant? Are we complying with what their recommendations? Yes.
How recently, I'm sorry, Janie, how recently did we find out about this? Because, I mean.
Just last month, in 20, like I said, whenever they told all the districts in December. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah, right around December 15th.
Yeah.
Is when they first let us know what the amount was gonna be. So there's a portal that's used called STARS, and that's where you access the information. That's how they communicate.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
And just random moment time study. Random moment time study, just so you guys know that. So in layman's terms, basically what that does is it is a proportional time sharing for our employees and the amount of time that they spend providing services that then we can come back and bill for. Okay, but they can't account for every single moment, right? So then they refer to it as a random moment time study.
We submit a participant list of anybody that can bill for certain services, like speech, OT, PT. The biggest one is gonna be speech. But then there's other services, like it said on their transportation. So then, we've always billed for transportation, for the bus monitors, for example, because they're helping our students, right? A lot of them are in wheelchairs and so forth. Well, now they're saying, which just recently changed, just this last month, that we have to take those off. That the only way that we can bill for transportation, a bus monitor, is if they work with our department. So the bus monitors that work on the bus, with our students, they don't work in our department, so then now we can't bill for them. Well, those are the kind of things they had already mentioned, but we didn't know anything about that. And we were just told, now you gotta take that off. So then, those are, to give you an example of some of the things that they had already mentioned to them that we were not allowed, or that they wanted to take, for us to stop billing. Another thing is provide some kind of support for the students. So sometimes whenever we transport kids to and from, those are billable services. Well, they were billable services, but now they're being pretty nitpicky about that kind of stuff. But again, we didn't know.
For example, just so I can get understanding, the Special Olympics that we took 2 buses, or I don't know, 2, 3 buses, we can't bill for those?
Oh, no. This would only be like for transportation to and from like homes, like to take them to their house, right?
Yeah, it's only for the regular routes.
Yeah, for the
Regular routes,
Yeah.
okay, this is not
Oh,
for
no.
events and stuff
No,
like
no,
that?
no.
Right.
Okay,
It's just for.
okay, well, that's something we need to understand, yeah.
So it's specific services for specific children, not a group of children.
Only those who receive
Those,
Medicaid.
okay,
And if
okay.
we have already received parent consent. If
Okay.
the parent refuses to provide consent for us to bill them, we cannot bill for that.
Okay,
So only if parent has agreed to it.
okay.
And so then the settlement provider, this is the way that it happened. So then the CHARS cost report settlement notices, they were issued to the LEAs, which is like us, the districts, that the reviews were completed and available to view, kind of like Mr. Dries mentioned. The settlement amounts were calculated and proposed to the districts. Well, we had a certain calculation, because Philip kind of already has an idea, because he calculates that. But however, they changed it and nobody knew. What they did is they, back in December 15th, when we're already ready to leave for the break, is when they put it in, and they didn't even send it out, they put it through STARS, which is where we submit our participation reports. Philip will submit the cost reports through there. That's where the information, but that's something that you only do when you're ready to submit. It's not a program that you're constantly viewing. So it's kind of like they were sneaky to put it in there, because that's not something that we're gonna look at on a daily basis. But that's where they put it in on December 15th.
So who's being sneaky, the state or the feds?
The
State.
HHSC.
The state, yes, sir. HHSC. And we'll share a little bit of insight that we got with you guys once we finish this
Yes.
little
Yeah.
sequential part, so you kind of give you an idea of how that shakes out.
Exactly. So then we had 30 days from that, whether to say we agreed with what the settlement was or not. So we were supposed to receive $606,000, and they decreased it, and they said we were only going to receive $154,000.
Oh my goodness.
And they did it through STARS. So, and right on December 15th. So we didn't.
So they notified you on December 15th and?
That it was happening now. Like here,
And-
by the way, here's your amount
And
now.
here's your bill.
Yeah.
No,
So-
not a bill.
Not a
Well,
bill,
no.
but the reimbursement.
Send it to us,
Right.
yeah.
So you can see that's a significant amount
Yeah,
of money.
yeah.
So for districts that are larger than us, they lost millions.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it, but what
You
I'm
know.
saying is, y'all found out December the 15th, we're March the 15th, and we're just finding this out. That's 3 months, 90 days that y'all have known about this, and the board has no idea.
Well, there's been a fair amount of ambiguity and back and forth regarding what exactly is going to happen. And I didn't think it was in our best interest to notify the board when it was a shell game going on, and I don't think we still know what the situation
That's
is.
a big spread though, sir.
Because initially it was 500,000, now I'm hearing it's much less.
150,000.
156 is what the projection, sir.
From 600 and some odd?
606. Yes, sir. Now, and again, that is all HHSC. Now, they have, so back in 2017, as we started,
And that's
digging
where we
around,
found out
they implemented a 1% fee.
That kind of goes along.
That had never existed before. And this is to every LEA in the state, right? And so that 1%, they pushed it out as this 1% is going to be for audit purposes or audit issues, things that come up. We can use that money to cover that, right? But again, they themselves are kind of the gatekeepers to determine how that money's spent, right? So in 2017, by happenstance, I don't know, but that's when they started implementing that 1% fee, which is about the time that they started going back and forth with the Fed saying, hey, wait a minute, you're not doing things state that you're supposed to be or the way you should be. And so when this came out, HHSC has decided that their workaround to meet the Fed standards was to make that deduction. And so when like our organization that we use, which is MSB, they said, well, wait a minute, you've been pulling that 1% since 2017, isn't that what it's for? Well, it's already been spent, was their response. And so that is why there's an appeal process that everybody has the option to do, because this is something that has been a problem for every LEA that submits, for reimbursement to SHARs.
How many kids do we have receiving these services?
Well, the thing is that it varies, how many.
I mean, whether they're getting 1, 2, 3, there's got to be an approximate, I'm not asking for exact.
Probably several hundred. Because it's your speech, again.
Right, it comes down to the service.
And it
Right,
varies,
right.
because if they have Medicaid, it can be billed, they may not have it, and then it changes, so it varies, but. So they only allowed us 30 days within the December 15th date to be able to appeal. And so they said we had to do it either by mail or special delivery. They gave us different options. And just so you know, we did appeal.
So my next question.
So, you want to go to the next one?
Thank you.
So then, this is the concerns that most districts have, is that there was no communication from HHSC on the appeals for the last 6 years, and that the program was at risk. Nobody had any idea. We didn't have any idea until December that this, that all this had been happening. And then that there was, even though that they had already been told there should be 4 quarters, they didn't add the quarters. They still allowed us to continue doing what we'd been doing, and we were doing it because we didn't know any better. So immediately, once they were notified by the federal people that we needed to change the quarters, we feel like you should have told us so that we could do it, but they didn't. And then that we only had 30 days to appeal, and like we mentioned, they told us December 15th we're coming back, so we did it, but we did it quick. And the other thing is that 1%, what happened to that 1% that they collected? That's where the appeals are. Like, you should have that money, because that money should have been used, because you've been taking it from all the districts since 2017, so that money should have been used to pay back whatever y'all needed to pay back, not taken from us.
Do you have a calculation of the aggregate total of the 1% for TM that it would be for 2017 on?
Well, it's the 1% all the way from 2017.
That's what I'm
We're saying, do we have a total of how much we've given?
No.
On just that 1%.
it would should be we'd have to go back and calculate.
So 606,000.
So
Because
that could
606 is
that
just
could
for
be
1 year.
calculated.
6 was 1
Yeah,
year.
because 606 was
For
only
just
for
the,
1
for
year.
just that, this current year.
Yeah.
So there'd be the 1% of that six, just for that 1 year.
So there
That's
could be a
6,000.
possibility if the appeal is favorable, I don't know who's going to rule on the appeal, that there could be some sort of a windfall from the 1% that we've paid
That's what we're-
for the past 6 years.
Because they've been collecting that from every district.
And
not
that's
just
what they're
us.
pushing.
And they said
But
they
hold on,
spent
guys.
it?
If it's 1%, that's $36,000, even if you get it all back for 6 years, that makes nothing up of the 600,000 or the 400 and some odd thousand that we're missing this just 1 year.
Right.
So 36,000, even if they give it all back to
Aren't we
us.
missing just 150-something thousand?
No, they're gonna give us 100.
We went from 6 to
Oh,
From
150.
606 to 100 and.
So we're short
56.
$456,000.
But we did appeal and and.
What's that process time like? What did they tell you all about the process time of the appeal? Is it 30 days, 60 days? Who knows?
No.
Yeah, so how does that affect us, losing those $456,000? How does that affect the service?
I've got $700,000 budgeted, and we're only gonna get 150. So there's
Oh my
there's a $500,000 shortage in the general fund right
It's
there.
more than $500,000, it's 550.
Right, because that reimbursement goes into the general fund.
Yeah, it's a district, it's the district that's. So, again, this is something that caught every district by surprise. We're not the only ones.
Do we have in our appeal for them to pay for our legal fees?
Well, the MSB is helping us with.
Our third-party administrator
We don't
that
use
helps us with
Cruise
the
or
claims,
anything
they're
like
the
that.
ones that are.
They're helping us.
Okay, I
It's
just
like a co-op.
I just see everything rising up.
Class action
It's like a
lawsuit.
class A co-op.
Yeah, they're helping us, and they've
Okay.
really been great about directing us, even had like helped us with our letter and how to appeal it and what to do and so forth.
Yeah, they gave us templates, they had a little webinar and.
These people care about kids.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think they've lost their reason.
So
Lost their why.
on the shortfall, or on the short time, being that you're gonna be short 550,000, where are we gonna get hit the most for services for our special needs?
This doesn't affect our services because we don't, the money
All this
doesn't.
means is we're just not gonna get reimbursed for any of it.
Yeah.
We're still gonna do what we always do, we're just
Yeah.
not gonna get any reimbursement for it.
So so we're short 550 and it doesn't affect us?
No, it affects
Yeah,
the
the bottom
budget.
line.
But I thought you were asking
Budget,
about
but
this,
not our
I thought you were asking about the services to the kids.
Yeah.
The kids are, we're still gonna serve all the kids, everything that we're supposed to do, we're just not gonna get reimbursed any money for it.
And
So
they're-
yes, it's gonna hit the budget $550,000.
And I will say they're making it very difficult, like, even like our speech paths had to go through all kinds of training and they had to go and get all kinds of, different licenses or certifications to be able to bill. And then they had to go in and change a bunch of things. We had already billed a certain way and they said, no, we want it a different way. So, I mean, we're doing it, but they're making it difficult on the staff.
But the bottom line is, we were doing what the state told us to do.
Exactly.
Not knowing that they're fighting with the feds, and the feds were telling the state that we're doing it wrong. They continued to, we did what the state told us to do.
Exactly.
And then boom, then they come back and go, well, we gotta pay the feds back, we're gonna take it away from you.
And do they have a calculation as to how they came up with that number, the delta? I mean, surely they have
I will tell
provided.
you, I am not a SHARS expert,
Yeah.
but it is one of the most convoluted, complicated formulas. It's right up there with the state funding template about how you take the services that you provide, the kids that are eligible, the type of service, there's all these different categories of things. And then you turn in all your indirect costs, like we submit all the costs for our transportation department. We have to tell them this is 100% what it takes us to run our transportation department. And then we send them the detailed list of the eligible kids, how many times they rode the bus.
Yeah.
And so we accumulate all this data, and it goes into this formula, and it's very convoluted, it's very complex. It even beats like income tax code.
And the teachers have to submit some stuff and then
And so,
reports
and
and
every year,
everybody
we've gone through SHAR's reviews where, you know, they've come and they've said, okay, you gotta prove
Yeah.
that you really did, these kids really rode the bus this much. Prove that you really did provide
Yes.
this speech,
Your service logs.
these services to these kids. We have to provide the logs. We have to prove that we are doing what we say we're doing. We've always had to do that. And so, that's what we've always done. And it's kind of like first, we do get reimbursed during the year for stuff that we do, but then at the end of the year, when we submit all our costs and all our data and everything, you always get your big settle up, you get your big check, and it's really for the previous year. So the big settle up is always a year behind. So, and we've averaged, you know, the highest, we've gotten over $800,000 one year. The last 3 years, it's been closer to the 700,000, a little under 600,000 is what we've got.
But they're just going back 1 year.
Well, they're just going this year for the 24 fiscal year. What, the data I guess we submitted from last year, plus the stuff that we're doing this year, the settle up and everything, it was supposed to be $606,000. They're coming in and saying, oh, by the way, you're only gonna get 156.
So because it's federal, what are the chances that the appeal is going to be granted? Because it's federal.
I'm gonna say, if they've said they've spent the money, who's gonna go really ask them, well, what'd you spend the money on? I'm gonna say less than 1%.
But
Who are you gonna ask, first of all?
Well, what is the basis for, I mean, is it because we didn't have documentation or because
No, this
they
is,
were
this is the Fed,
disqualified
this is the Fed's
services?
telling,
yes, they were disqualifying
this
services.
is the federal government telling Texas, the state department, the state health department, the Texas State Health Department, hey, you're not doing things right, you're not doing things right, and they continue to tell us.
Texas told us to go ahead and do it. And the Fed said, nah, give me my money back. So,
Yeah.
we've been doing it.
Sounds like the state comptroller.
Because this has been going on since 2017, but nobody had any idea except for them.
Because they filed an appeal to the feds saying, you know, sometime after 2017, to try and kind of work their way through that. But the final from the feds was like, no. We said, no, we told you. And so now every LEA in the state is paying for it.
And who governs LEA or what?
The HHSC, I asked that very same question and I did a bunch of research and it comes down to the state agency, so it's a
State legislature.
pretty much, that's what it comes down to. There's not like one governing body, but they're the gatekeepers. I mean, nobody has input on where that money goes, what they were doing with that 1%. They were the ones that arbitrarily selected to start implementing that 1%.
Yeah. Because prior to that, they didn't, there was no fees because we're schools, right? They didn't have any fees for the districts. It's just something that the districts could do. And then in 2017, they started charging the districts 1%.
It just smells kind of funny that it was the same time that all the appeals stuff started happening with the feds, you know?
I mean, and we knew that they were using the 1% for administration fees, but we didn't know that this other stuff was going on behind the scenes.
The disallowing.
There is some conversation, I don't know if it'll be successful or not, probably not, for the state to hold us harmless. And with the budget surplus, alleviate some of the hits that the districts are going to take.
And when we spoke with our MSP provider, the person that helps us, she said that they're fighting it, like they're having conversations with legislation. They're not letting it go. And they're right in the middle of it too. And I'm sure not just them, but other companies such as MSP. They're gonna try to get it. They're going to legislation and they've been there and they've been talking, so maybe we could get some of that back. I'm not gonna give up. I mean, we're gonna do
The lottery money that's supposed to go to the education system too. It all gets lost, doesn't it?
Yeah, where's that thing going?
Any other questions?
I guess, I know that I would like to be updated on this, I'm very we're very thankful and blessed that our kids are going to continue to get services provided. At the same time, we kind of want to know what's going on with it. So if we can be
And
updated.
yeah, as things move on.
You can assure the board that none of the services are gonna be cut this year, okay? We already have the budget. But what I'm saying is, since we're not gonna be able to bill certain things next year and therefore, I just wanna make sure that we understand on, not, since we can't budget for it and we can't bill for it, to not be able to not provide it because,
No,
that's
I can make that assurance.
All
Special
these
ed,
services are what they're
special
required.
ed is part of our budgetary plan is in a bubble. It's not impacted.
It doesn't affect us.
I mean-
Because like we mentioned, the money that we get just goes back into the district. But again, whatever we need, we have.
Because all the services that we provided, they're required, I mean.
Yeah, it's through an
If-
IEP. You
if a
can't.
kid- if a kid is-
I understand
Yeah.
that.
If a kid needs
We would
speech-
not go back and change it just because of
If a
this.
kid
No,
needs
it's-
speech, they're gonna get speech. The
Exactly.
only thing is, if they happen to be eligible for Medicaid, we're not gonna get reimbursed for some of that cost.
Yeah, it just wasn't directly circular in the sense that that money came back straight to the special ed. So.
Just
we
believe
won't
me,
feed it
special ed
like
always
that.
wants the money, but it just goes back into the general fund.
Yeah, it just goes there.
Because part of the cost thing is, we submit all the eligible participants, all the speech people, all the people that are eligible to provide billable services. We submit all their salary information. Like
And some of the salaries.
Just like the transportation, we submit all the costs that our eligible employees that are providing these reimbursable services. We submit all that. Then they take our actual data, churn it through this formula, and that's what calculates when they settle up at the end of the year. Because we do get periodic payments during the year, and then we have a massive settlement. Once a year's over and we submit all our data, then we get the massive settle up for the previous year in the current fiscal year. But it has no effect on, if a kid needs speech, they're gonna get speech.
Oh, yeah.
If a Medicaid eligible child needs physical therapy, they're gonna get physical therapy. That's all determined by the special ed process.
Yeah, no, it doesn't affect.
All this just means is we're just not gonna get.
It's gonna hit our general fund more. That's
It's
it.
gonna hit the general fund, and we're not gonna get reimbursed. Where before, we had the avenue to get reimbursed for some of these eligible services. We're just not gonna get reimbursed as much.
Because they're changing, like I said, some of the things, and then they're letting us know at the last minute.
I mean,
like
it would
that.
have been nice to know that the bus attendants have to be employed by the special ed department. And they even said, they prefer that they be certified paras. Well, that would have been good to know 6 years ago.
Or even at the
And
beginning of the year.
even early now, because we just submitted our new participant list for the next 4 months. So even if we change it, and let's just say, because our paras, some of them do ride the bus, but they're gen ed. If we changed it and flip-flopped them, for 4 months, they're not billable until we can, every 4 months is when we can submit a new participant.
Every quarter, we submit a PL list.
Any other discussion? Questions? All right, that was report only, no board action needed. Moving on to agenda item number 4, report eSchools transcripts.
Madam President, members of the board, it's time to be updated on the district's student information system. So we have Dr. White and Mr. Alvarado.
It is still town, which is up. Okay. Board members, good evening. This is kind of report 1 of 2, starting with the much kind of anticipated eSchool/transcript update. So to kind of give this update and to have the proper context for the update, I kind of want to kind of recap kind of the 3-year history that we've had so far with PowerSchool/eSchool. And I use those terms interchangeably. So PowerSchool is synonymous with eSchool in this context. Year 1 was the summer of 2021, and that's really when we kind of were all in and had I believe about a 2-week window, which we were treating as our onboarding window to transition from Texas/Ascender to eSchool, our new student information system. So when you hear 2 weeks and migrating 30-something odd years of data from one system to another in 2 weeks, that seems a bit of a daunting challenge. Almost so much so that you almost question why PowerSchool, the provider, would even have kind of put the district in a position where we only had 2 weeks, right? And this is information, as I'm sharing it to you all, I'm learning it as I'm returning back from the high school as the interim principal once Gabe was able to arrive and we were able to kind of return to our normal positions. And so that's kind of the thing I returned to, was learning that we had about 2 weeks to get all of our data over and into the new system. And so right off the bat, you can kind of understand that that seems a bit rushed perhaps, and maybe not enough support or time to truly transition, perhaps in the way that eFinance was allowed to transition, where they kind of were able to simultaneously run both systems until they were ready to move off the old system and onto the new. We didn't really have that luxury. It was kind of, we had to jump from one pot into the other, and then we had to hit the ground running, and literally, like, as soon as Gabe was on the clock with us, it was pedal to the metal to get that system up and running. And so with that 2 week window to do all that work, in year 3, we're still kind of feeling the effects of not really having that proper launch. And so I'll get into a little bit more of the details behind how we're recovering from that, what I would consider an inadequate onboarding year. And so that kind of gives you a year 1 preview of us just trying to get through, get the system established, understand it, learn it, all without necessarily having the kind of year-to-date, all the way through training that would kind of be needed to truly onboard staff for positions and roles that the system really requires each user to really know and to be able to do. And so year 2 really allowed us to kind of get a better handle on all that, specifically knowing that that was going to be the final year that we would have to kind of deal with the outlier that was COVID. If you recall, COVID and our semester of COVID changed the grading policy, which changed how all that would be calculated in our system. Well, as you can recall, that was originally established within Texas Ascender. As that migrated, a lot of that data and the way it was programmed in Ascender didn't necessarily migrate 100% over, kind of like a direct swap. And so as we learned about all that, we realized that that was part of the issue, was the data migration wasn't necessarily migrating the way we thought or it was intended to migrate. And so that kind of got revealed to us initially through the COVID semester, realizing that, oh, okay, well, we set it up this way, but it doesn't look that way here. And so that was a lot of what we spent that whole year going back and forth on, was understanding what the issues were, resolving the issues, and understanding that we had simultaneous problems existing at the same time. We had system error, meaning that the system didn't necessarily migrate the data over, therefore it wasn't working the way we were told it was going to work. And then we also had user error, realizing that even the way we inputted that data into Ascender wasn't necessarily 100% accurate. The difference between Texas/Ascender and eSchool is that there are certain fail-safes built into Ascender, because it's Texas-based, that would kind of go around some of those conflicts that we had with our data, so it never presented itself to us. It was never a problem in Ascender. But when it got moved to eSchool, that's almost like a blank canvas. It's not Texas-specific, and so those conflicts got carried over and were really starting to present themselves in the new system. And so with the COVID year being purged and removed, and we've kind of cleared that out, we're thinking now, okay, the real issue that was causing all these problems in the system are now fully removed. Well, yes and no. We removed a big kind of system error problem from the actual SIS, to then now kind of start revealing some of the, I would say, remaining user errors that now we can really focus on, because we no longer have the COVID semester kind of obstructing our perspective on what actually was happening within the system. And so that takes us into year 3 after COVID. And so I'm kind of recapping kind of the lessons learned from each year. Year 1, we were still, despite some of the challenges that we had, we were very excited because we knew that this system was just chock full of potential as far as data reporting, data capture, a true one-stop shop that we can truly kind of have as a dumping ground for all of our student data into one nice portal that all users can access at their responsibility level. And so year 2, again, moving a little bit closer into getting it the way we wanted to by removing COVID semester, better understanding those discrepancies so that we would no longer make those errors, and just having a better understanding of how GPAs and transcripts are being generated and produced within the system, so that almost reverse engineering, if we have issues with GPAs and transcripts, we can walk that back through the reverse engineering process to understand what went wrong and why are we seeing what we're seeing on the transcripts the way we are. And so in year 3, we start realizing that as we no longer have necessarily the overarching system error of that COVID semester, now we can drill down to better understand the actual user errors that, for lack of training or just a lack of truly understanding how the system is supposed to be used, we are now identifying and correcting. And so kind of just recapping the user error versus system error. I will admit with eSchool, just because of some of the tumultuous kind of back and forth we've had over the years, it's very easy for mindsets to allow ourselves to think initially that any issue in the system is a system issue. But for this year in particular, we're starting to realize that that's not always the case. Yes, we still have system issues.
Can you clarify that, please?
Sure.
What do you mean by it's not all issues are system issues? You talking about data entry issues?
Yes, so there are 2 major issues. Either the system has the issue, meaning we can identify in the system that there is some sort of error being generated or some sort of coding or algorithmic issue, and we can pinpoint that and resolve that through our ticketing system that we have with PowerSchool. Because we technically don't have a programmer on staff that's our staff member, kind of like a CCISD does, where they have a team of programmers where they have their issues. They are the ones that will kind of work through and fix all that.
So to better understand that, we just found out, I guess, this year after talking to CCISD, Mr. Vedmich was gracious enough to set up a meeting and pay for the support we've always needed with this program, that we've been building it backwards. So in this system, there is an overarching district building site.
And that kind of gets us into right here, this slide right here.
So what we've been doing at the high school is building class by class, when really there's a master sort of overarching class that should have been built first. And then that class filters down to feed the rest. So when we talk about a user error, when a counselor builds, let's say, algebra class number 7, that has to be perfect 8 times however many classes we have, because we're building it one by one by one. When in all actuality, if we'd have built that class first on the district side, it would have filtered down and populated. At least that's what we thought today. And then today we got the same type of error where some of that stuff from the building side didn't transfer to this year's data, because we're starting to build the master schedule this year.
So the master schedule has always generated student schedule, teacher schedules, student schedules, grade reporting. So you're saying that what we were doing is working backwards and...
So whenever you build, let's say for instance, we're building a CTE course, and this is where it kind of gets the monies, as you know. So the state says, okay, this is the CTE course, there's a state ID attached to that CTE course. In that, there's also contact hours. In that, there's actual, who's the teacher of record, so on and so forth. That must be built first, and then once that's built, it should filter down. What we were doing, because we didn't see that on our side when we started, because we, like I said, we entered, it was 2 weeks, we needed a master schedule. And I remember, if you recall, my first year here, we had like 500 kids who didn't have a schedule, because the system didn't transfer their course requests over. So in all actuality, what really happened was that those schedules or those courses had never been built on the master schedule side to filter into the building side.
Let me ask you, when we went to eSchool, hadn't we bought a support system? Didn't we
Programmers? You mean programs or?
Didn't we have a certain amount of training with these people?
No, they were charging us.
You buy the license for the program, and then you pay the implementation fee, which is supposed to include the training.
Yeah, but didn't we do that for several months because we were having issues with them?
So I can tell you what kind of happened was that we went from Ascender, we uploaded the data, that took like 2-3 days, and then we immediately started building a master schedule. That should never have happened. We should have
So
stopped.
they didn't guide you all the right direction.
Well, what they ended up doing is troubleshooting our problems instead of training us, because we were right in the thick of everything going wrong.
Because I remember them coming to the board, you were already here too, that we had so
many problems.
And but we were supposed to have training
No
on it.
support.
So they built it backwards from the get-go then.
Right, and they oversaw the building of all that. That's.
So they oversaw the errors, okay.
And to further, I guess, complicate things is that there's no built-in reports to that program, like other programs have to say, hey, this is wrong, you should probably correct it. That doesn't exist, it still does not exist. So the programmer that we've gotten from CCISD is currently making us those fail-safe checks that CCISD has access to. And he's even confused because our data is so wonky, is a better way.
And they don't use eSchool. How we became involved with CCISD is because Kingsville ISD and some people I've worked with previously that are in administrative positions uses PowerSchool eSchool. So we brought them in on a Saturday to look at our system, and that's where those recommendations stemmed from.
Does anybody still use Texas that you know of?
It's either
Majority of the small
Ascender
districts in the state use Texas. It's called Ascender now, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
There's probably, I don't know.
Skyward.
There's no support
The
from
big ones in
ESC.
Texas are Skyward.
PowerSchool.
And Ascender.
Do we have any recourse with this system? I mean, as far as maybe getting, here's like, we're paying for the help anyway, right? But
When I've been told they own our data.
Yeah, we're not self-hosted. That's another issue that helps but also hurts. Yes. It helps with the cybersecurity tech aspect of things, however, but then we can't access anything on our end. We have to rely on a third party then to do anything related to the data, since it's all on their end. We can't
So
see it.
that's posed another problem, because our programmer,
man, that's a hard.
the one we hired, can't
It's the hardest
see the
thing.
data that they need to see because it is hosted through that third party. So we're having to find a workaround around that to let him be able to see what he needs to see.
Holding us hostage. We sold her. And our kids are suffering.
And we're honestly moving as fast as we possibly can, but as we are still even onboarding our new PEAMS coordinator, who's, to be honest, in the past couple of weeks has really helped reveal a lot of kind of the mysteries that were still lingering with the system. For instance, the screens, and understanding there is a hierarchy and an order to the system where if we are out of order, the system is just not going to work. But unfortunately, the system is not going to have a fail-safe to tell you about that. You won't learn about that until you've got the whole thing built and trying to run the reports. And then on the reports, that's when we start realizing, oh, this isn't right, what's wrong? And then we reverse engineer and we can troubleshoot now back to these exact screens where the issues are coming from. And as long as what we know so far is that if we build it in the proper order from the district level, which is the building course, essentially this screen helps lay the foundation for that one course where, as Mr. Alvaro was saying, that will now be the foundation to trickle into other sections and in other areas where if this course needs to now become an honors, it can. Or this needs to be a split through lunch and it needs to have grade 7 or grade 8. It can be done. It can just be taken from a drop down and then kind of tweaked accordingly rather than that one course being built 80,000 times because of every section or every unique situation that they've got to have in order to make their master schedule work.
Can you submit a data, can you do a data submission and get an error report so that you can find if your submission, if your data is correct? Can you
Yes.
generate
So
reports?
Which is a little bit different, because that's a
Whenever we get a-
PIMS type thing.
A fatal. We can go and correct that fatal. However, the fatals that it's picking up, like, let's say, for instance, now for CTE funding. It doesn't, you don't get to say, this kid got this, this, or this. They're pulling the actual state ID and make sure they did those 4 classes to get your funding reimbursed. Well, if those state IDs aren't matched properly, that's not a fatal, that's just you not being,
Yeah, you're just not gonna get that funding,
just not
but we're
getting
not
that
gonna tell
data.
you because
Right.
the report isn't
Just
meant to show you
gonna
that
affect funding.
conflict. You just decide not to code it that way. So it's not necessarily wrong, we're just not maximizing our value, knowing that if we use the right code, we get funding.
So, our people from, that we've paid to audit everything now,
Yes.
are in the process of doing that, and we are correcting back 2 to 3 years of that kind of error. So Algebra 1 might have been coded something else. It's coded right for honors, it's coded right for GPA, it's just coded to the wrong state ID. So those type of things are the things that they're catching that, and those things have been wrong since the migration of, it might have been wrong for 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it might have been wrong.
And that's the problem, is that we're probably having the issue stemming back 10, 15, 20 years, but because of the way Texas/Ascender operates, because of the fail-safes, it's Texas-based, it has workarounds to where it's not gonna allow all these little conflicts to be the reason why you can't move forward, or it can't tell you that, hey, you can't do this until this gets corrected. So that was one of the benefits.
It doesn't have that.
does
That
not
is
have
terrible, because you could submit to Texas your data, and it would give you an error report, and you knew immediately where your corrections needed to be.
And it came with those reports that were canned and ready to run from a click of a button that would help kind of tell you all that.
So you should be able to tell, like, there's a report that says a kid has duplicated a course. That's not that really duplicated, it's just that we have a course coded to 2 different courses. And that would be a major catch, because if we did that the CTE route, that means they only finished 3 classes instead of 4, and there goes our funding. So it's that type of thing that we can catch now and say, okay, in fact, we spent like the better part of 2 days correcting those 1 by 1, and it's not 1 by 1, like you fix the master, what's done is done. So now it's going back to each section, 11 of them, for the past 3 to 4 years, or since we used the system, and correcting those as well. So that's what we're in the thick of right now.
Let me ask
Fix
this.
something that wasn't broken.
Since we do something that I'm not familiar with, which is award half credits. What does that variable, does it complicate this?
Yes.
A little bit.
Okay.
It will, because in some cases, like the kid has a schedule change at semester. If they don't line up, then you have to do some things to make them line up, because they won't show in the same, line. Yeah, so you'll have a half credit and a half credit. It'll show 2 half credits for the same course, but not 1 credit all the way across.
At the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So this system, with all the corrections and everything, this is gonna carry us through the end of the school year, correct? Using the system.
Correct.
All right, let me ask you a real hard question. Can you assure this board that those kids, when they walk the stage, they're certified to graduate? Mr. Van Matry makes a recommendation to the board president that those kids' transcripts are not going to be, go back and have anything changed on them, either a grade or a credit. Can you assure
The
us?
senior class, yes.
They're not gonna be changed, the credits are gonna be correct upon certification of graduation?
Yes. Those have already been audited by the third party.
You've done the seniors first, and now, where are you, sophomores?
Juniors.
Okay.
And, well, I mean, because I can sit here and say my daughter's a sophomore and she holds the same number in her class ranking as another person in her class. So there are 2 of them with the same same number in the class?
Especially in the sophomore year, since not as many courses and GPAs have been calculated exactly. So give it a couple more semesters and things start kind of evening
Okay.
out.
I thought for sure one would go above another and then another. So that happens. Interesting. Well, we learn
More so
something
it's
new all the
sophomore than
time.
seniors.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've also had hand calculations of ranks for seniors. So we actually did them one by one by one.
We need to be doing that.
Every single one of them, to make sure that they are matching what eSchool is saying, and they have.
And let me just say this, because I think it's really important to kind of really catch the context here. We're talking about 3 years worth of work, right, with Power eSchool. High school and Mr. Alvarado, and under his leadership and his team, he's been asked to basically fix 3 years worth of incorrect data in about 6 weeks worth of time. So if you think about that, 3 years with 4 grade levels, with new course design and master schedule builds year to year, I couldn't think of a almost impossible to achieve those expectations in such a short amount of time, given the circumstances and everything else that he has to do as a building principal. But I will say, it's been incredible to see the amount of work, because I can literally see it on the screen and through our new PEAMS coordinator, who has a different style of communicating and working with high school, which has really opened the two-way communication and just understanding that as they are reaching out to help and wanting help, whereas before it was almost kind of a struggle and we were trying to meet ourselves halfway. Now we're reaching out to each other, locked arms, and really kind of going through this process like as one team. And with that, as we continue to do this together, learning about some of the things and just knowing how far he and high school have come in the last couple of weeks is truly remarkable.
Yeah.
It's almost like a miracle, like it really saying that word.
Believe me, I understand exactly the message you were in when you had to go in
When you
there and-
walked in.
Yeah, it was horrible. I just want to be sure that we don't come into a situation like we have the last couple of years where our GPAs and our ranks and our senior ranking and our, all of those calculations are in error. I don't want us to finish out another year with something like that happening again.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So, they will be hand calculated, everything will be double and triple checked, even by a third party, to make sure that it is absolutely correct. And then we'll have to move in year by year by year. But our more important is the seniors. Those really have to be right. And then we'll go to the juniors. And there's some wonky stuff that happened there too. We had I guess, advisory period.
Yes.
We're still trying to figure our way out of, because
But that was the one,
calculating wonky.
that was just a 1 year unique
Right.
thing, so.
So we're having to figure out, because that's counting as a credit when it shouldn't. And no matter how many times we fix it, it's still showing up as a credit. And that affects GPA because that affects the denominator. So we're still trying, there's things like that that keep coming up.
And that would be more of a system error, because we're trying to do something within this system and kind of call class a class, even though technically it's really not. And so the system, I'm understanding that the system is struggling mightily to differentiate between it being a class, where classes earn credit, but this is really not a class to earn credit. It's time that's been flexed in for students to earn credits. And so trying to get the system to understand the nuances, that's the part we're still
So
trying.
even though there was no grade given, it's calculating as a credit?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Can I ask, how many hands do you have in this system? How many people have access to inputting data that can, in other words, can anybody change, like for instance, so let's say a counselor makes
We have stopped that from happening.
Okay.
So what we've now put in our safeguards to where only the registrar is allowed to change the system. So the request goes from the counselor or from the principal saying, I need this teacher changed. I need this whatever changed. It goes to that one person, and that one person is the one person to fix it, and it's checked by Ms. Medina over here. So there's a double check to make sure that they're doing it, but that was at the prior school district I worked in, only one person's hands was in that system, because if something happened, they knew how to undo what they did. That was not the case here. And to tell you, in that year, Ms. Lucas, we had 4 assistant principals, 4 counselors, like 10, 15 people in the system trying to crunch numbers at the kitchen sink.
That was my concern, that I know, I'm aware that there were many hands, and there never should be that many hands in a system where you're inputting data that is generating grades and transcripts and that kind of thing. Okay.
That's all been corrected.
Do we know that kids that have transferred out, that their transcripts and GPAs were correct when they transferred out? I don't know why that just popped into my head, but I'm thinking we've had some kids transfer out. Did we make sure their stuff was correct before we transferred over to the other school?
Yes, but our situation is not unique. We get bad transcripts from other school districts too.
It goes both ways.
I get it, but.
So do I feel 100% confident we caught all of those mistakes? No.
Okay.
But an Algebra 1 class that was coded wrong, well, their school's gonna code Algebra 1 the way
They want to code it.
So it's that type of thing. Are they gonna get credit for the class? Yes. Is the state ID number gonna be absolutely right on every transcript that we send out for transfer? No. I don't say with very confidence that didn't happen, as we've corrected them. But even with our registrar, they'll take it and say, this means this in our, because sometimes they come with a credit that, like from an out-of-state, that doesn't work with none of ours. We find the closest thing to it, and then we match it, and then we give them the grade for it. But that's our decision once it arrives on our doorstep.
Okay.
And so just to kind of put an end on this, kind of with the conversation about just the hands in the system, this is kind of definitely what we're kind of following and ascribing to here, just understanding the system structure and procedure, the roles, responsibilities, and just the user levels. And like I said, with those screens, understanding the hierarchy and the order. Unfortunately, we kind of moved from the bottom up, as Mr. Alvaro was describing, in terms of building the courses. Now we're building them from the top down to where we don't have to repeat ourselves every 5 seconds with building another course. We can build it just one time, be more efficient. And so just with that learning alone, moving into next year actually gets me excited knowing that we won't have a repeat like this again. And before we do anything, as far as rolling the data over into the school year 24-25, we will get as far through those course corrections as humanly possible so that when we do roll, everything we roll will be good, clean, accurate, and verified data. It wouldn't be something that we're going to take a chance on and we'll eventually get to and have to correct later on. It's going to come over 100% accurate so that, like I said, this process is going to be just a one-shot deal to make up for 3 years worth of kind of incorrect things happening, to kind of give us that true clean slate where next year will kind of really and truly be our reset year, where we can kind of re-embrace the onboarding process that we never really got in our year one. And so correcting the courses is kind of currently the plan. It's being worked on right now, and I'm very confident that we will get it all corrected prior to the rollover, which will happen sometime in May. That kind of gets us into April, May-ish, when we start looking at implementing the new GPA weighted tiers, but we won't start that process until we are about through with the course correction, since that's the top priority at the moment. And like I said, to really try to better support the onboarding here in the district, we are taking 3 days in June to do a bit of a 3-day crash course summer series on PowerSchool, where counselors, registrars, assistant principals, and select district administrators are all going to get trained on those 3 days over those select topics. There will be more time to cover some additional things on those days related to those topics, but those topics on those days will be the focus.
So we won't have the Commons full of kids at the beginning of the school year that have a schedule that only has 2 classes on them, or they have a gap in their schedule. So hopefully, when we roll over, all of that data from the previous year is going to cross over, so when the kids get their schedules, they have a schedule without the blanks. And
That's correct. And the June 3rd day is really to help shore up any kind of last second items, or just for people to ask questions, or just, is there a better way, or we're really looking to do this moving forward, and to kind of have that on-site, face-to-face instruction from a certified PowerSchool instructor. So definitely we're going to take advantage of that as much as possible.
That was my question. Who's going to do the training?
PowerSchool is. They're coming out to pay us a visit.
Oh, I want to be there.
And you can trust it?
So one thing I want to say real quick, there's a lot of good information, is thank you, because I think just sitting here, I feel beat. Like, I can imagine how y'all feel going through this, and I think, there were a lot of tough questions, a lot of concerns, right? There's still a lot of uneasiness, probably because of what we went through the last 2 years, but I think y'all should really, again, I said this before in many other meetings, you and your staff and you, Mr. Dr. White, you always have the answers, I feel like. When you come, you're very well prepared. I feel like leaving here today, I feel very confident in what y'all are doing. I want to make sure y'all understand that there's a huge thanks for what you're doing, because this is selfless work it's under the microscope, right? I mean, it's the next big thing that we have a mistake, which I don't anticipate us having. So I just want to make sure y'all leave here with understanding that it's very appreciated what y'all have done to this point. Again, even in the industry I work in, we're very bad about roll it out and figure it out, right? There should be management of change. There should be onboarding. There should be all these things that the vendors usually tell you, hey, you need all this. A lot of times people say, yeah, but I don't know. Gabe's really smart and Dr. White, he's really good. So I think, you've recovered in a short period of time, it sounds like, and we're on the right. So ultimately, I just want to leave with a thank you to you and your staff. And
Absolutely, because I can say, because I've sat here through these years of struggle with the transcripts and the GPAs and the changeover, and just hitting your heads up against the walls, us just, again, and parents, constantly bombarding us. We keep getting the excuse of COVID. We're sick of the excuse of COVID, and when are the transcripts and GPAs going to be right? So, yes, hands down, great job. I'm glad that finally we've implemented someone to try to help them, because I feel like their life preserves were just deflating.
On an island.
Yeah.
Appreciate those comments. We also are planning something that we haven't seen here at TM, is a real comprehensive training prior to this. Do you want to talk about that, Vanessa?
Yes, on May 29th and May 30th, we're going to have some HR training for our staff. On the 29th, we're going to have a documentation training for our assistant principals, and directors. And then the following day, we will have a comprehensive training on Title IX for the same individuals. And then we'll take that a little bit farther, hopefully, in the next school year, so that we can get some Title IX training to all our employees.
All right, we're moving in the right direction. Equipping, right? Everybody needs tools.
Right. It's about time, isn't it?
And this is the time, so kind of glad it's actually worked out the way it has, because everyone is in a really good position to kind of receive the work now and to truly be learners within the process. It's been from my perspective, it's been excellent to see the counseling team and just the administration team at the high school grow in that capacity and truly learning the system in a way that, wow, if only we could try to have learning like that every day. Like I said, it's been a sight to see for sure.
Thank you for your presentation. Very
nice.
Okay. On that note, we'll get into the second one.
And let me tee that up for you, Dr. White.
Sure.
One of the things that has become very clear to me is that there's been no consistency among the campuses in respect to truancy. And another thing is that I don't believe that we've taken advantage of the truancy laws to hold people accountable for students not coming to school. And part of our budget process is to try to make sure that we increase attendance and use every available means to do that. So my vision that's filtered down through Dr. White and the campus's principals is we have to take advantage of every statute and law, and we have to be consistent, and we have to make sure we do it every day. So saying that, I'll turn it over to Dr. White.
And on that note, just to kind of ground everybody in the conversation here about board policy, and really and truly, truancy and attendance is really dictated by policy, because it is important to be consistent, not just as a district, but even across the state, as an absence should work the same for any student in any circumstance in school. So That's kind of what board policy FEA captures, essentially allowing the LEA to have the authority to pursue truancy measures because of compulsory attendance laws. So because there are laws in place that require students to attend school up until a certain age and for a certain time period, which you can read here, that gives the LEA the authority to pursue action when those compulsory attendance laws are not being met. And so board policy FEC dictates attendance for credit, which is contingent upon the 90% attendance for that student for earning that particular credit. And so there are two separate ways that we can address attendance for credit. Currently, our policy has the principals plan and the attendance committee, which is the kind of overarching Texas statute that districts that are, even if they are DOI districts like us, they can still utilize that policy measure to see if that will have an effect on improving the 90% attendance for that student who's missing seat time for earning that credit. As opposed to the DOI provision, which kind of allows us to opt out of board policy FEC, but we only will use that provision under very select circumstances. And I'm not sure, Mr. Alvaro, if you have a good situation where that's been.
So we have like our automotive students that go to Coastal Bend College. So they travel there and back. In some cases, their next class, because they have different schedules, they'll miss that class. They're still responsible for the work, but they'll only attend that class 60% of the time because 2 of those days they are at Coastal Bend getting their automotive certificate. Usually we make that a PE class or something that's not essential for graduation. But typically that's the number one way we use it is for our kids who are on warpath who need to get to class. That's been the only really notable one. We also have used it for students who are participating in, let's say, a summer camp that's educational in purposes. We'll forgive those absences so long as they bring us a proof of whatever they're doing. Because we're just in that unique situation where year-round school where most, people have a full summer.
And so, in continuation of the policy, visiting truancy, now that we're no longer bound by COVID, there are certain measures that must be taken by the LEA prior to filing truancy. And so, one of the two things that the truancy court's going to be looking for from the LEA are the two things listed under item A. They're wanting to make sure that the district is addressing student conduct related to truancy in the school setting before the student engages in conduct described by 65003. And that essentially is just meaning that we are having the in-person, face-to-face meetings and interactions with that student to better gauge and understand the why behind that student's truancy issues. And then trying to have the goal where we are minimizing the need for referrals to the truancy court. And so rather than just waiting for the student to hit the certain thresholds for missing days for attendance and then just firing off all these truant complaints to the court, there are expectations that are placed on the district prior to that happening that must be done and that will be checked by the courts prior to them even receiving or even hearing our case. And so currently we do, as a district, have procedures that govern that. And that link to that document's included. And that's been something we've had for the last couple of years in place. But now that COVID's no longer here, this is where we are really now starting to revamp how we pursue truancy as a district. And so, as I was saying about the measures that we need to look at and explore for truant students prior to filing, here are the list of strategies that we are currently looking at and using. And so you can see there's a kind of myriad list of kind of items to choose from. And so to really better understand I would say the most effective strategy that could work with a student, that's where the one-on-one engagement with kind of our support staff on the campus, whether it's somebody like a Miss Iris Chapa in her role, or even someone like Ms. Mugi, who's our social worker, having these ancillary support providers in their roles are kind of being used as a wraparound service to better support our truancy efforts. And so you may not see those particular positions or kind of situations listed here as a strategy, but we are leveraging our new people to better understand that why, so that as we do understand that why, we can better select a strategy that will have the best impact on correcting those truancy issues. And so you can see here that a lot of it is peer-to-peer and working in groups and being engaged in the school process, whether it's engaged in activity, engaged amongst their peers, or even just participating, period, in just school. And so a lot of these strategies, the majority of what we're working on is in trying to increase engagement and increase participation in anything related to school. And so with that being said, we understand the measures, we understand the policies. Now, how do we execute and actually implement the actual procedures for attendance and truancy? And so I'm sure you've heard before, there's a 3-6-9 hierarchy where at three unexcused absences, we kind of do this. And then once that student hits 6, we kind of do this. And so we do follow the flow chart for each of the 3-6-9s. And so starting with number 3, you can see here that once a student hits 3, you can see the two main players through the flow chart are the attendance clerk and the campus administrator. The admin, that could be the principal or the principal's designee. At the high school, for instance, who do you have kind of? Ms. Vega, for instance, would be kind of the principal in charge of attendance and truancy. And so Ms. Vega and Ms. Benavides, the attendance clerk, are working side by side continuously on just those updates in the day-to-days from any changes from any student that is kind of being monitored and flagged for attendance. And so from there, you can see the workflow as to kind of what is happening at their level, again, at 3 unexcused absences. So again, preparing the letter, starting the truancy documentation, having the conference, making the contact with the parent, and then looking to start implementing those measures right away so that we're not waiting until 6, 9, 12, 15 absences to try to start doing something. We're doing something immediately at that 3rd absence. Same thing at number 6. Again, another layer of messaging with the 6 unexcused absence letter, which indicates basically early warning for truancy. Again, adding to the documentation, continuing the conferences, and also this is where the counselor really comes in, having those one-on-one meetings with that student, and also reaching out to the family to loop them in just to make sure everyone's on the same page. Because by and large, our parents are aware and they're willing to help, but they too are almost at a loss for what can I do on my end to help, knowing that I've done this, this, and this too. And so it really does kind of take a true team to kind of help solve the truancy issue. At 9, again, just another kind of level where once the threshold's met, the final letter goes out, conferences, basically explaining what the next step will be, that after 9 absences on that 10th absence, that will kind of kickstart the true truancy kind of protocol.
So 9 absences is how much of a percentage of a class?
10%, if you're thinking about from the 90-10.
Okay.
That's usually the rule. Like, you really don't want to hover too much more than 9 because, for instance, we have 178 days currently for students this year. The calendar that was just approved and will be in effect next year has 180 days. And so that's 2 more days. That might change a bit of a calculation, so to speak, but that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is that it's not exactly like actual hard 9. It could be 10, it could be 7 for some, depending on the situation. And then, of course, at 10, that is the kind of marking point for truancy. And so once 10 absences hit, we are starting the filing process and making sure that all our ducks are in a row with the measures that we were supposed to look at and implement, and to have documentation as to whether or not those measures were working or not working. And then being ready to kind of have the paperwork in order so that when it does get submitted to the judge, they're not going to come back with more questions on what we did. They're going to just move the paperwork forward so that we can actually get on the docket for a hearing with that student. And so just to kind of capture the overarching decision-making process, it really comes down to the why behind the absences for a student and understanding that whether it's research, our own personal experiences, or just time in the role that we have, whether it's a counselor, administrator, what have you, there's always that why. And as long as we can drill down and get to it, that gives us a fighting chance at fixing or even like helping improve or even possibly fixing the truancy situation. Because more often than not, it's something outside of the student's control. And that will kind of present itself indirectly through some possible negative behavior or failing classes. But as we kind of peel back the layers and drill back down, it always comes down to something the student cannot control, and possibly even the parent. And so this document kind of captures that process. And to kind of close it out, one thing in particular this year that has been unique and different, especially at the high school, has been the kind of implementation of the student support team meetings, where certain key players that typically you wouldn't see gathered together in a meeting are now finally meeting. Mr. Alvarez created that time and space for that very specific reason of addressing those truancy issues or just those kind of ancillary outside kind of environmental, maybe home, family life type issues that are kind of causing issues for that student, possibly in attendance or even sometimes in discipline. But generally speaking, students that are in danger of not graduating on time and addressing any of those issues, which mainly at this point are attendance problems. And so I definitely think that's been a successful thing this year. I hope that that's something that gets continued because I definitely think that's been beneficial for the campus. Ms. Chapa, in your role as our kind of truancy liaison for the district, one thing that has started this year that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if it's been in effect in prior years, but the region is now having a regional truancy meeting where any of the districts in the Coastal Bend region are coming together to discuss best practices and strategies as far as what's working, what's not working. And so I had the opportunity to attend the initial meeting. Ms. Chapa's been to a few more. Do you have anything you'd like to add on just those meetings or just in general the process?
The first step is showing up. And so our goal is, and our district is getting them to show up. And then everything else goes from there. We're creating a great atmosphere, the climate, the culture. I can't say enough about each one of our campuses and our administrators and what they're doing to get to know the students, finding out their why. I love that you keep saying that. Some of it is parents not really knowing that their students missing, students not understanding that they're considered missing a lot. So the why changes every day, and the systems such as our student support meetings. I've been in a meeting with Mrs. Arias, and she knows the students know her. Communities and schools and our social worker play a very, very important role in helping us work with students and getting to know them. But just the first step, we tell our kids, the first step you take is showing up. And then we do our job to provide a positive atmosphere and a positive culture and letting our parents and our students know why being here is important.
Let me just add to that. They hear this is an athletic term. You may have heard it, I didn't invent it. But you've seen a bunch of strategies that Dr. White shared with you. But just as important is culture. Both building a culture within TM community that education is critical, as well as in our classrooms, a nurturing, child-centered classroom that when the bell rings, the kids go, oh, they don't want to leave. Because if you don't have that positive culture, the old saying is culture will eat strategies for lunch if it's not done right. And so what you're seeing, this is a really important slide here, is a movement to have that partnership with the home and the school and the kids where they don't want to miss. And that's heavy lifting. But that's what we're going to do.
Would you say that TMISD has a serious truancy issue?
Yes.
We do?
Yes, yes. I think there's other districts that have a more acute issue, but I think that there's a cost that's not just measured in money. It's academic performance and being here. And I think that we can, and I've told the teachers this, I've met with every teacher in the past 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And in these conversations, I tell them that from a district level, we can do better with truancy than what we have done, and we will do better.
And the why is important. Back to being in the classroom every day with engaging activities, the high quality instructional material, everything that we're adopting, the people you saw, the students being recognized, all of these things come into play. They hold peer to peer, they hold each other accountable for showing up and providing just a really great place. The bond, they're seeing things being built, they want to get involved. So all of these things play a huge role in showing up and being a part of something great.
And just one more thing, if I could add, with the kind of last bullet about campus-based incentives, just really wanted to highlight middle school and their efforts for attendance. As a former middle school principal, Mr. Alvarado can probably speak to this too. Attendance at the middle school level is extremely hard, extremely hard. In fact, I just was always something I was constantly thinking about because it was always something that was like a pursuit, just trying to figure out how to get kids that should be here, have no reason not to be here, to be here. And I will say that kind of working alongside Ms. Arias, I've even learned a few things from her as far as things that I wish I had done as a principal that she's currently doing on her campus that is working, that has totally transformed what I would even consider an excellent, high-achieving, campus culture environment to an environment where there is no mistaking when you're there. That is an A campus. That by far none. It is an A campus just based on the feel and the presence and just the culture that she's been able to establish. And some of the campus-based incentives that she's been able to do for her perfect attendance students are just students that she's wanted to celebrate with attendance. Just has been a really, really awesome thing that I feel like has caught fire throughout the district. And I just want to say thank you, Ms. Arias, for really being the spearhead behind all that this year. It's been excellent.
Great job.
Any other questions?
No, I know there's a lot of kids not attending school. I don't know their whys of why there's not, but there is a why there. But I don't want kids walking across the stage not being equipped to make it in the world. And their why is they're not going to be equipped if they're not in school and getting the education that they deserve. So if we can find their why and get them back into the classrooms and get them educated, they're going to be successful in life. And that's really what we're here for, right? To be successful in life. So, good job.
Good plan.
All right, so that was report only. Moving on to agenda item number 6, discuss and consider election of ESC2 board members.
Madam President, members of the board, I always do a hatchet job on differentiating between the ESC board and the appraisal district. So I'm gonna allow Ms. Castillo, I'm gonna delegate to Ms. Castillo this item.
Okay, so I'm handing each board member a ballot for election for ESC board member for 2024, place 1. In your board packet were the resumes for each candidate. One's the incumbent and one's the new candidate. So all the the ESC is asking for is that you mark your vote and then you turn it back into me. It's not an actual board decision where y'all vote on who it is you're going to select as a board. It's an individual based decision. And it seems like a little like you already knew who you want. So once you're done, just let me know and I'll get them from you and we'll put them in the mail.
Why is it set to where we can vote for places?
Outside of our place.
Yeah, that is very weird.
That's what I thought too. Thank you.
to that question.
I've not had any contestants for the others. Because you do have more than one position on the list, and not had any contestant basis except place one.
All right, did everybody? Yes. You just have to place our names on that one piece of paper, right? That all of us voted? Okay, all right, awesome. All right. Now we're going to discuss and consider approval of consent agenda informational items. We'll start with number 1, check payment register. Questions?
Yes, I have a question on page 18, I believe. Let's see.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Page 18.
Yes, I have a question about, let me see, the amount of money that we pay legal, J. Cruz and Associates. Is there, I know you have a reference number and all of that, but is there any way to get an item, I don't know if it's an itemized, what are those services for? Consultation, litigation?
You know how much a lot of it, I
can look
don't
on
know
this
what
check.
percentage
If you look
is
at the
bond
account-
related.
If you look at the count coding, there's 5 line items there. The last 2, that was for bond-related issues like procurement.
Architect.
6914, that's one of the bond funds. The first one, the first 2 are just the board account, so that's just general things. If it has something to do with HR, that's the 3rd account. If it's an HR issue, but it's all detailed. I mean, we get a very detailed bill from the attorney.
Okay, I realize your reference numbers and all of that, but they're not, I mean, I don't know what your reference numbers
Yeah.
mean. But is this how often does this large number happen?
This is 2 months, this is November and December's bills. This is
Is
2
that
months.
average for legal?
Yeah, that's about what it's been around, yeah.
January, December.
Well, he makes a lot of money off of TM, doesn't
November
he?
and December.
Is that average? Is that what legal services really run in a
Well, it
district?
depends upon, I mean.
Your litigation?
I think the
and-
issue is you can't do anything without legal support. I mean,
Correct.
we will never sit here and make a decision that says, yeah, that's the way to go, Philip.
never gonna see
Everybody's gonna
zero
wanna
there.
say, I need somebody to back this up legally, and I think that's kind of where I don't wanna say the world, but that's
No,
where
you're
we've
right.
come, just as a society is, decision-making is, yeah, I think we make great decisions, but 90% of the time, we're gonna say, let's get legal advice. And is that too much? I don't know, but it does seem like, I think you're right, it does seem like a lot.
And thank you for verifying that, because
One of the things we've weaned ourselves is grievances. Definitely not Title IX. We get a Title IX, as Stacy knows, and Stacy, no, she left. And Vanessa, Title IX's a biggie, and we get those. But it is high.
It is, okay.
Under what code does that fall under, Philip? I mean, in the expenditure?
This report doesn't show the full, but there's a specific account code that means legal. 6211 is the
Well,
code.
I'm talking about your budget and your budget code. You know, you have,
Well, there's a legal budget in the superintendent's budget, or for the board. I mean, there's a budget there. There's a budget in HR for HR stuff, and then there's the budget that we have for the.
does he handle all of that, I'm assuming?
Yes, he assists with all 3 categories.
Except special ed.
Except special ed. We have another firm that handles the special ed issues.
This other law firm that this last meeting that they were here,
Oh, bond attorneys.
those bond, so they handle something different from the bond, other than Cruz does?
They handle the actual transition of selling the bonds and making sure we follow all the laws, and then making sure that the wire transfers get into our account. Cruz handles procurement, contracts. There's been a significant amount of back and forth with the architects' attorneys and ours. And in the real estate, we still haven't gotten the real estate to you. So, and that will continue through the procurement process. Because those things will put you in jail.
No, I understand, it's just I had never heard of those other attorneys that
Yeah,
were representing us.
They are only to handle the bond sale, the bond process. And their fees are all embedded in the transaction. The underwriters.
You won't see an invoice from them.
Okay, that's what I'm.
No, that's not gonna happen. They'll get their money off the top through the bond sale.
Okay, gotcha.
One thing I see on here too that just brought to my attention, I've been meaning to talk about this, is when I look like JV, varsity, the money spent, the stipend that the kids get, and that's not very good. What is it, like $8 or $9?
Yeah.
Like, we gotta fix that. Like, I know that's an extra cost to the district, but we got kids that, some are very underprivileged playing in athletics, and that's their only chance at a meal, or they go to tournaments on weekends and they're getting $40 for the weekend. I mean, I'm not saying they have to eat Red Lobster. Well, Red Lobster's not fancy anymore, but but we got to get better. My suggestion is, and I don't know how to go about that. Is that something I put as an agenda item, or is that okay?
Yeah,
So,
I was getting ready to call point of order on that.
okay,
'cause you're-
my vote.
Get it on the agenda.
Okay.
But you're right.
Any other questions? Comments? All right. Number 2, February 2024 financials.
Are we gonna see when the bond money reimburses through the financials? Because
you'll see
the board
with-
one's at 117%, but a lot of that's from
Yeah, I
bond
was going to
advertising.
class that, and if you look, you'll see when that expenditure will go down in the general fund and it'll get moved over to
What's that timing?
I gotta put it on my list to do, I gotta take care of it this month, I gotta do it.
You're gonna get those funds on Tuesday.
The bond funds
Not
come in-
tomorrow.
The bond fund can come in a week from tomorrow.
Any other questions?
Can I just see that when it comes in? I just like to see the bond. That's gonna look nice. Just send me an email.
I'll send it to Chrissy, and if I have a screenshot of the transaction,
I would still like to see that.
We'll put it in connections.
So the shortfall in the funds that we were talking about earlier, is that gonna be the state source funds?
That, if you look in the general fund, that's gonna be short, that's federal funds that come through
So is the state-
it's the 5,900. If you look on the general fund, it's the last revenue item, 5,900 federal sources. The bulk of that, 871,000, is the SHARS money.
Right, okay. And so we won't alter that budget until we know,
I mean, I could do a budget, normally I wouldn't, but I could do a budget amendment next month and increase the deficit, yeah,
well, if it's gonna happen. I don't know if there's,
I'd say yes, so we can track it appropriately.
Exactly.
Because I doubt nothing's gonna get resolved this fiscal year.
Right.
And if they're only gonna pay us the 156, I'd have to do a budget amendment to reduce that and increase the deficit.
and just a question on the student transportation, is that basically maintenance, or what is that?
That's everything, that's every expense of maintaining the buses,
Okay.
paying the bus drivers. It's every expense of the transportation department.
So we're at 75% of our annual expenditure, and we're 50%. Does the summer help that we're not in service, the buses, or we don't have, will that tail off, I guess is what I'm asking?
Or are we
Because if
gonna
it's a
go over?
rateable expense,
Wait, this one
then we're
is,
gonna be at 150% of what our original, or not 100%, we're gonna be at 50% above what we originally expended, put as an expenditure, which is gonna be about $340,000.
That's the one with encumbrances. And so.
Those aren't actual.
They both have, there's
The actual
one with
75%.
75%, the other one's at 70%, so.
Yeah.
And if it's a rateable
I'd have to look and
expense,
see.
that'd be like a $300,000 overrun.
Yeah, we're not, that's, I'll have to look and see exactly what's causing that.
Okay.
But it's not like the current month's expenditure is only 92,000. So I'm thinking there's other expenses that hit in other months, but the transportation budget is not spent in 12 equal months, but.
December and June are big months because those are the maintenance months. So December probably pushed us up and over. We get all the oil changes done and everything in December, the maintenance.
While they're not running.
While they're not running. And then in June, we do the same thing. Then we do our inspection, the registration inspections, everything's done in June. So those are big months.
I'm not anticipating having an overage in that function.
Okay.
Can you look at last year's to see if we had any?
It takes a minute to log in. So if I look at last year.
You already got it.
Oh, no, this is just a report.
While he's looking that up, let's move on to number 4, the enrollment report. Any questions on that?
We got 8 new kids today. That's a good thing. Did you see the enrollment report today?
Let me ask you, were they transferred in?
I do not know that. I'll find that out. I doubt it because I haven't signed in.
Oh, okay. And the reason I was asking, because since you put out that transfer, that helped bring
will
those
help.
8 kids
Yes,
in.
it definitely will help.
Yes, I had 2 calls today asking if we could still transfer into this school year, and the answer was yes. And for next year, yes too, so.
And I also received, this ties into enrollment. There's there's a request for a zoning change for single-family homes off of Clarkwood. I'm assuming if you turn right on 44 and you head towards Corpus, that area there that's for sale is going to be development, which is in our attendance zone, which is a good thing.
I can tell you last year, I have to back out the bus that we bought last year. But what's budgeted right now is about what we spent last year. So we're on track for that function.
About the transfers, are we opening that up to all campuses? Is there a limit to the transfers that we're accepting for all campuses?
Well,
Like,
what we're doing is a change. Prior to starting today, the first word was generally no, and we would have a very narrow window towards the beginning of school that the prospective students and parents would have to jump through. Now what we're doing is apply. Let us look at our grade, what grade your kids are going to go in. We want to say yes, and we're offering some pre-approvals when we know we can say yes.
using the same criteria that we've always used before, attendance, grades,
Yes,
and
that
discipline and
hasn't
all
changed. That hasn't
Behavior.
changed, except for the ones that are currently with us.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We will show them the door for non-attendance and discipline, but not for grades. Because they're ours now, and we have a responsibility to educate them.
Are we, when we're going out and opening our doors to transfers, are we doing that because of the fact that we maybe, our buildings are, we need to fill the buildings that are gonna come up?
Well,
Is
we're
that-
300 less students, and we're running a deficit budget, and it will help, the money follows the kids, and it will reduce our recapture significantly.
We're talking about enrollment, so.
I'm still kind of, I've been thinking about the number of students, in-district students who transfer out. I was blown away by that number. I thought you were gonna say maybe 30 or 40, not 243. I'm really surprised that that many kids in-district transfer out. I mean, they could have various reasons, but, you know, I was really shocked at that number. It's quite a big number to transfer from in the district to outside the district. It could be parents working in other districts, it could be various factors, but I have to say that surprised me.
Did you also notice transfers have come down, but in-district kids are going in the other direction?
And with the housing industry that's being attracted to this area, of course, that's gonna increase our enrollment. But I'm surprised at the number, given the housing that has developed within the past 5 to 8 years or so. I would have thought our transfers from in-district that are ours, that transfer to out of district would not have been so. I don't know, that might be average. It just surprised me that there was that many kids in district leaving. Just a statement, just a comment.
Interesting data to look at it.
Yeah.
All right. Did y'all get your questions answered for the tax collection report?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Number 5, regular and special called board meeting minutes. I didn't see anything wrong with those. Everybody good? All right, do we have a recommendation?
Yes, we do. Madam President, members of the board, the superintendent's recommendation is to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion made by Ben, a second.
I'll second.
A second made by Jamie. We have a motion and a second at the administrator's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor? None opposed, motion carries 7-0.
So first vote.
It is 8:21 p.m. and the board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551.076.076.082.0821. .083.084. Again, it's 8:21 p.m. It's Monday, March 18th, 2024. It is 9:15 p.m. and we are back from closed session deliberation. Do we have some business to take care of?
We do. Madam President, members of the board, the superintendent makes a recommendation to approve the administrative.
Second.
I have a motion made and a second by Paul and Leo. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries 7-0.
Madam President, members of the board, the superintendent makes a recommendation for the board to approve all the resignations as presented.
Do I have a motion? Ben? Do I have a second?
I'll second
Paul?
it.
Paul A. I have a motion and a second made. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Is there any other business?
No, ma'am.
Okay, our next regular called board meeting is April 16th, 2024. And we'll need to put that contract on there.
Yes.
From agenda item number 1.
We will.
The second favorite time of the night, other than student recognitions. It is 9:16. We already have a motion made by Ben, and we second made by
I was gonna
Paul.
say, we stay there, man. I just caught on to that last one. Huh? I said, y'all have done that for 2 years. Almost 2 years I've been here, and I just caught on to it. I'm a little slow.
All right, all those in favor to adjourn the meeting? None opposed, motion carries 7-0. It is 9:17 PM on Monday, March 18th, 2024. This meeting is adjourned.